Welcome to Employee Termination Tips. My name is Christopher Neufeld, Neufeld Legal. And in this particular video, we're going to be discussing why is back pay so important. Now, when an individual in particular is terminated, fired, or even quits their job, they have a very short time frame in which to act upon the situation that they're left with, having lost their job, having departed their job, and cleaning up the situation left behind. In particular, pay obligations that are due from their former employer, that being their former boss, to themselves with respect to money that is earned, whether from actual work and or from legal requirements, be it by contract or often more importantly by statutes, that being employment standards legislation in the various provinces of Canada or even the Canada Labour Code for federalized employees in Canada. And one of the key fundamentals that seems to be happening within Canada is that back pay is not being recognized as a key consideration by many lawyers and thus by many individual employees who have lost their job. And it's not being addressed, or it's not being addressed adequately. Because back pay often is the most substantial amount of money, sometimes measuring with severance pay, sometimes it's not as significant, but oftentimes it can be quite significant, but is not being pursued. Instead, far too many employees and their legal counsel are pursuing termination pay in lieu of notice and severance pay, which is understandable, and the employers recognize that, yet they are not necessarily pursuing back pay. And dependent upon the jurisdiction within which you are working, that being what province you're in, or even if you're working as a federal employee, which is its own distinct arrangement, those employees might in fact be entitled to significant back pay. And we're not talking about hundreds or thousands of dollars. We're talking the tens and tens of thousands of dollars potentially for a single employee, especially those who have been working for a long period of time. And what exactly are we looking at? We're looking at underpayments and non-payments of money that is due to those employees, oftentimes as a result of failures to correctly follow the applicable statutes and legislation governing overtime pay, vacation pay, and statutory holiday pay. And there's a whole myriad of aspects involved in that. And because it is complex, and because it's a hybrid, effectively, of law and mathematical formulas, for some reason, people are not making the full sense of what it is, and thus overlooking this crucial aspect of their pay, especially when they're out of a job and they have an opportunity to pursue it from their former employer. But if you don't go to your past boss and ask them for your back pay and have somebody who can explain what it actually is and how it's supported by law, and not just judge-made law, but legislation, employment standards legislation, Canada Labour Code, whatever is the applicable legislation for employment pay, you could find yourself losing out on a very important segment of the monies that are due to yourself. But this is something that you need to properly consider, because when you're out of work, you've earned money. We're not talking about money that you're asking on a whim, that you're saying, oh, I was harassed in work if you really weren't, or it was a difficult job. Yes, that might be there. But even that aspect, if you're supplementing your ask by legitimate legislative-based back pay, earned money that you have not received and you're seeking it, then at least you're having a double whammy. You're pursuing that aspect of pay that you're entitled to and that they're very reticent not to give you until they understand the full scope of it, because then there's significant legal exposure to them, especially when it's entrenched in the law and the legislation so that there's no wiggle room for them, such that when you ask for the additional pays based on common law aspects, even when you're asking for considerably more severance pay, if you can have a foundational basis upon which to make your arguments that's solidly based in statute, as opposed to a he said, she said circumstance, or even a judicial determination, you're going to be in a far more solid position. The better you are with respect to structuring your arguments and having a solid legal foundation, the better you are at getting the monies that you are deserving and that you are pursuing. So back pay really should be a priority immediately after you've been fired, terminated, or even quit your job, you've left your job, and you're making a determination as to what you do. And if your lawyer doesn't understand it, you got to speak to a lawyer that understands where those aspects are, because what we're talking about, like I said before, is not hundreds of dollars, not even a few $1,000s possibly. We could be talking about tens of thousands of dollars that is legally due to yourself in the form of back pay. So you need to understand it. You need to have a lawyer who understands it. And if it does exist and it's owed to you, you need to be aggressively pursuing it. Thank you.